What should we make of Tyson Bagent?
I think you need to make that he played a really good football game. They didn't ask him to do too much. I think the great thing is the way the game played out. He could just sit back and play football, and he wasn't forced to have to, play above himself or play above what the plays were that were called. A couple times when things broke down, he did a nice job of creating, but he made the plays in front of him, and that to me is an exciting thing when you've got a young quarterback that is just playing the plays. And a lot of them were quick throws, but you see it, you get it out, you throw it on time, you throw it accurately, and then everybody else can start to complement off of that because you're not making a bunch of negative plays, you're not turning the football over. I thought it was a really good first outing. Again, we all want to see more, and we're going to want to see more as we go. But for first times out, for a guy we didn't know a whole lot about, I thought he managed the game really, really well and made good, quick decisions with the football and put him in favorable situations.
They have said that Justin Fields is doubtful for the game against the Chargers, but it looks like it is not heading towards an IR or surgery outcome here. So we assume one, maybe two more games of Tyson Bagent. When, if ever, does quarterback controversy become a legitimate issue here?
I think the only time it really become, well, I shouldn't say the only time. I think there's a couple factors. I think the first thing is if you've come to the realization that you don't think Justin is your guy and is your franchise guy, that you've given him enough time or what you're seeing every day, doesn't match up with what you think you need or where you think he needs to be at this point. I think that's, step number one where you start to consider it and go, okay, is it Justin needs more time, so he needs to sit back and learn, or do we need to move a different direction? I think the other thing, and oftentimes can be the more telling thing, is the locker room. Does there come a point where the locker room says, hey, Tyson or whoever that is gives us a better chance to win right now? That becomes very important for a coach, a staff, an organization to have the pulse of the locker room to know what they're feeling. Because I've always felt, I've been in numerous quarterback competitions in my life, and the locker room always knew. The locker room always knew who should win that job, who should be leading that team. And that becomes the most important part of it, is a guy that you put out there that the team believes in. And the team wants to be out there with and wants to battle with. And so, that becomes a second factor, when you're going through this. It doesn't always come down to, what we see on Sundays or that sort of thing. There's lots of factors that go into that leadership, how they see a guy work, what they believe a guy is capable of. But I think those are kind of the two factors that would go into it, somewhere down the road, if Tyson keeps playing and if he plays well and if they keep winning, those all, become factors too. But I think those are the kind of the two primary factors when you come to a controversy or when you think about, maybe going another direction.
It's a good answer and interesting context to think about because we so often go big picture, Kurt, and think about development and think about ceiling and floor for a tools quarterback or and like in the locker room, they're not really zooming out like that. The way that we are, right? Like, could Bears players and coaches be like inspired by a win, even if it comes, with an easier quarterback ask of Tyson Bagent than perhaps Justin Fields?
Yeah, the thing you have to remember is that the locker room sees all of it. They don't just see a small sample size; they see every day. And they understand the everyday stuff, the practice, the training camp, the work in in the meeting rooms and the conversations and all of that stuff. But I think you're right. I don't think players ever really think, oh man, this kid's going to be good 2 years from now. And again, not that that's not a factor, but guys think about now. Guys want to win right now. And again, I'll take you back to my time in New York. So I was there for a year. And obviously they drafted Eli that year. We started the season, really good. We started the season, I think, 5-1 that year, or 4-1, and ended up being a playoff team when they decided to bench me. So we played 9 games, but they decided to bench me at that point. And everybody in the locker room knew that I was in a better situation, and I was better at that point in time than Eli was. And so the guys in the locker room were like, "Man, we're a playoff team right now." And I think the organization knew, I knew we weren't a great football team, but you never know what happens if you even squeak into the playoffs and if you get hot at the right time. And so everybody in the locker room's like, "We're playing for now. We get in and we got a shot." And then they make the move. And I think the organization was saying, "Well, I don't think we're that good right now. We want to get this kid ready. So when we feel like we've got the team to be competitive, the quarterback is competitive and ready to go." And so, they went that route, and obviously it worked out well, and they won 2 championships in New York. But that just takes you into the mindset of the players, because the players have no idea if they're going to be there 2 years from now. They don't know if they're going to be there when that young quarterback develops into what they can be. They want to win now. They want to have success right now, because A, as a competitor, you want to have success every time you go between the lines. But B, they're playing for their jobs. They're playing for their future. And a big part of that is the success you have as a team. And so, so that's kind of the mindset you go into the locker room. And as you said, they're not thinking 3 or 4 years from now, because most players don't have 3 or 4 years from now, or don't look at them being necessarily a part of that organization well into the future.
Hey, Kurt, they had 3 drives of at least 12 plays yesterday, a ton of short throws, a lot of check downs and things like that. No explosive plays as an offense, not one. He made a couple more impressive throws last week as opposed to yesterday. But from what you saw yesterday in terms of the scheme that they were doing and what he showed, can it evolve from there? Like, can you use yesterday as a starting point? And then what does it look like next week or the week after or 5 weeks after, if you ever had that much time?
Well, I mean, let's just say that, if you have, a game plan, going in every week, and it doesn't really matter what team it is, and you say to yourself, "Hey, we're going to stay ahead of the chains, and we're going to be successful running the football, and we're going to stay in low, in short yardage type situations where we don't have to hold the football and push the ball down the field and make big plays, and we can still win by a couple touchdowns." Every team's going to go in with that mentality and go, "Great, we'll do it every week," because you don't want to be holding back there. Holding the football back there. You don't have to, hold the ball and make these wow plays. What you want to do is you win. And we want to stay ahead of the chains every single week. And so will it probably have to evolve? Well, of course, the chances of playing numerous games that way, where it just whatever you're calling or whatever you're doing is working, and you're keeping yourself 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, where you can hand the ball off if you want, or you can throw a quick throw. It just doesn't happen every week. It doesn't happen against good teams. It doesn't happen where you don't make mistakes. So I think it will have to evolve. But again, it was whether it was a great game plan or whether they executed really, really well, they stayed in manageable situations all day. So the young quarterback didn't feel like, "Oh shoot, we're in 3rd and long again. I gotta make a play. I gotta get us a first down." And that's a great place to always play if you can stay in that realm.
We're talking to Kurt Warner here, Parkins Spiegel on The Score. Kurt, people always comp people like this to you. Brock Purdy's maybe a little bit more recent example. Tony Romo gets thrown around, but it's like, oh, I mean, he was bagging groceries, and then he ends up winning a Super Bowl and winning MVPs. Did you know that you were as good as you were before you got the shot, or did your success surprise you?
No, I mean, that was the thing with my journey, as it was, such kind of a unique journey. I sat on the bench for 4 years in college, and then, get cut by Green Bay, and then do the Arena League thing and all of that. And so when people looked at my journey, what they looked at or what they gravitated to was, "Oh my gosh, this guy sat on the bench for 4 years," or "This guy worked in a grocery store. He was playing, arena football." We don't even know what arena football is. Whereas when I looked at it, all I said was, "Well, I played 1 year in college. And that 1 year, I was the player of the year in our conference. Yeah, I got cut by Green Bay, but then I played in arena football. And 2 out of 3 years, we were in the championship game, and I was the best quarterback in the league those 3 years. Same when I was in Europe. So nobody had ever shown me when I had the ball in my hands that I couldn't play, that I ever had necessarily a bad season when I was playing. And so when everybody else was gravitating to those things that they couldn't make sense of, or the things that, when I wasn't getting the opportunity, all I knew was, well, every time I've had a ball in my hands, I've been successful. So yes, this is the NFL. Yes, this is a higher level, but why am I not going to have success at this level? Why can't I just do the same things? And, so let's use Brock Purdy as a great example, is that here's a young guy that, yes, he was drafted and he was Mr. Irrelevant, but he played 4 years of college football at Iowa State and played really good football and experienced a whole bunch of different things and had won a lot of games. But for some reason, we forget about that. And we look at the fact that, he was drafted late. It was almost to the point where nobody wanted him. So there's no way he can be good. And that, to me, is the difference between what media does or what fans do and what we do as competitors. We look at what we've done. We look at what we know about ourselves. And we take that with us when we step between those lines, no matter where we were drafted, or if we weren't drafted, or if we were playing arena football, or if we worked in a grocery store. None of that stuff. You played in Division II school. None of that stuff matters. All that matters is, hey, football is football. If I can see it and I can throw it, I can play at any level, no matter what anybody else thinks about me.
Well, that sounds a lot like Tyson Bagent. Like, do you see any of yourself, not necessarily style of play or anything, but like, he's like, I don't know. I was a record setter at Shepherd. I stayed home because it was by my family. I've got more Division II touchdown passes, yards, and total touchdowns than anyone ever, so I think I can be a starter in the NFL.
He also has a deep faith, which he credits for keeping him calm and confident and steady, Kurt. So, yeah, there's some comps there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some comps. And at the same time, I'm one of those guys that don't like to put comps on young guys. Like you hear people talking about Caleb Williams. Oh my gosh, he reminds me the most of Patrick Mahomes. To me, that stuff's not fair to young guys. I understand why, and I understand, those different things. But to me, it's about when these guys get an opportunity, let's define them by what they do between the lines. Let's don't say they have to be the next Kurt Warner, or let's not say that they can't play because they played here or they went through that. When they get an opportunity, let's judge them on their opportunities. Let's judge them on what they do when they get a chance to play, and let them define themselves instead of us trying to do it on our own for whatever reason. That to me would be my argument with Brock Purdy, is we can continue to make all of these different things. Got a great coach and he's got all this talent, whatever. Let's look at what he's done when he's played, and he's been really, really good.
Yep.
Tyson, it's been one opportunity, but hey, he played really well. It didn't look too big for him. He made the decisions he was supposed to make, and he got his team a win. Let's judge him on that, and let's move forward and see what he does next week.
So we only have like 30 seconds left, but I got to ask, with what you've seen of Justin Fields, do you think he could have executed that game plan as efficiently as Tyson did?
That's a loaded question. I mean, I have no idea. We've talked a lot about Justin, and, he's got unbelievable talent, and he's shown promise at times, but he's also shown areas where he needs to grow. And so, I never like that, scenario where it's like, hey, if you put me in Joe Montana's offense, would I have had as much success? Or if I was in Tom Brady's situation, would I have won 7 Super Bowls? And, it's so hard to do. I know we want to do it, but it's so hard to do. Let's just look at, again, what Justin's done and say, hey, he's done some good things, but he's got to grow here. And then, let's look at Tyson from his own right, and let's do the same thing.